Hello, everybody at SIFF. Thank you for clicking on this Q&A. My name is Andy Spletzer, and I'm the programmer for the Alt Shorts Female Revisions. I'm very happy to have 6 out of the 10 filmmakers present virtually for our Q&A. And so what I'm planning on doing is first I'm going to go down through several of the films, ask the filmmakers specifics about the films, and then open it up to more general questions. And I'm going to start with Monsieur Caro and Marie-Hélène Turcotte. So, hello and welcome. Thanks for coming to SIFF. So first, I want to ask, how did the film come about? How did you imagine it? What was the first spark?
First, it was about the poetic perspective of white and cold and long season winter. So I would try to represent for the main character, Mr. Caro, the solitude like something really positive and a ressourcement, giving place to imagination for thinking and construct her own love, and it's why I want to construct something more unreal, but could become real. And the winter is a kind of ressourcement or resourceful period for creation, and re-giving also to the imagination potential and open possibility for have a construct love. And also it's not a film. Sometimes someone say, do you imagine this film during the COVID period? But it's not. It just finished at the beginning, but it's not the propos, the main subject. It's just about solitude and loneliness and a space for creation, essentially. At the same time, it's a passage for me. It's a film I imagined a very long time ago, but I decided to finish it and to change it around 10 years after the first start. But at the beginning, it's just drawing on a 35 millimeter piece of paper, and it's more thinking. I start with more illustrated book, but I change it and I construct a film now. The passage between architecture for me, like the square space and the white space, is like the passage of cinema. Also, it's the screen of new things and the possibility of with this new language at the 10 years before. Yeah, sorry.
And did the animation, which came first, the animation or the narration, or did it go back and forth?
Drawings. I draw like daily drawing. I book and I construct first of all the story or the project start with drawing. And it's the first time I put the dialogue. I write dialogue, and it came during the realization, the production, and it became essential for communicate the love he grew or imagine in him. Just not imagine. I just want to represent more the character, and it's just the dialogue with images and also with words. It became like letters you want to write to her, Blanche. Yeah, sorry, is it enough clear? Sorry, my English is not perfect. My boyfriend say, oh my God. Sorry.
And then my third question is, what has surprised you about the reception to the film or other people's reactions to the film?
I think it's classified rapidly in the category of experimental film. So for me, it's it's an in between, but I don't progress in my career in a specific specific case. I don't really like category, but for me, the process of a film of animation, it's really more experimental than a style, a production style with storyboarding and stop the research and start the production. So. The perception is about the more is the experimental aspect in the category of the different festival is always in the experimental film, and also the reception is about maybe the abstraction of the dialogue. Maybe I'm a little bit morcelé, comment on dit, fragmented film, but I found rapidly me placed in open film. And someone I just remarked people need more indication, I don't know, clear story for go inside a film. For me, it's not necessary, and I think it's why I work with more open narration, more open visual, and you can make your link and find your the duration. Oh yeah, the durée. Someone evaluate a film like you need to put images for say something. For me, I work with a lot of a cycle and variation. So at the moment when I have a segment, I work in different segment. I want to explore all the segment, all the possibility with a variation with this drawing. So I don't put in my mind, it's more like a composition and a composition of a melody. So I work with repetition. And sometimes I have comment about the durée. It's 7 minutes. Long or something like that. So that's it. It's clear. Yeah. Okay.
It turned out lovely. I've seen it several times, many times.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, now I'm moving to Crowded by Nathania Rubin. And so let's see. One thing about experimental films is how do you describe them? How do you describe your film?
Crowded. Yeah, it depends who I'm talking to, but I would describe it as kind of a stream of consciousness, I guess. You mean like how do I synopsize it, or how do I?
That's part of it, and then we can get into the origins of it. How did you, what were the first sparks of it?
So the animations I made before Crowded followed very closely a plan. And with Crowded, I really wanted to have it feel like a dream. It's cheesy, but that was my goal. And I decided to start with a drawing of mine that I liked, which was the first image in Crowded, which is just this face that is not really clear what it is. And I wanted to just let the drawing carry the narrative and not the other way around. I'm very interested in using animation and drawing not as illustration, but as like narrative content on its own. So sort of as a form of writing where the drawing itself carries the idea with it. And then the narrative is almost like a byproduct of the evolution of the drawing. So that's what I was really going for. So I would kind of doodle in the animation process and see what came out. And then if something seemed to be emerging, I would, plan a small segment, but it definitely wasn't planned from the start to finish it. And I did it over many years. So it followed me through different life phases and has transformed a lot over the time that I been working on it.
Can you explain to me a little more about the draw and erase style?
So I'll draw, I work on 2 pieces of paper at once, and they are kind of, you can see visual information from one through the other, and then it's a little bit like cell animation, and then I'll erase and redraw and take a picture. And I've been working this way for a while, but the more I work with erasure, the more the erasure has started to be I like let it stay there as its own mark making. And I really see it as this interplay of the erasing and the drawing, where like I love erasing. I think it's its own drawn mark, and then when the paper gets too full, I'll have to kind of take it off and refresh it and lay a different piece down. But I also like another thing I've started doing is really having the paper be a conscious element of the story. So not kind of needing to suspend disbelief in any way. This goes along with the drawing as writing, like letting it always be the drawing that it is, like not pretending to be immersed in an artificial world, but just having it be a drawing that's moving instead of an approximation of reality. So I don't mind seeing like the edges of the paper sometimes, or where two papers kind of converge, or if there are wonky elements. I mean, I take a lot of those out, but I leave some in too.
And you say it took several years to make. Now that it's finished, how do you see it? Do you see it differently now?
Yeah, I mean, it's my head is not where it was when I started it. So it feels like a coming of age. I mean, I wasn't a kid when I started or anything like that, but I feel I've matured past where I was during it. So it's a little bit, it makes me cringe sometimes to watch it. But I mean, I'm happy with it, but I wouldn't make it now, is how I feel. You know, it went from, I started it and alongside other projects in 2011, and I've had 2 kids since then, and things have sort of shifted. So the things have really changed in my relationship to relationships and people. You know, my son kind of appears at the end of it, and I like that it is these sort of parentheses of a little bit of a subconscious diary in a way. So the bedroom scene is probably not something where my head would be at now, but yeah, I'm happy. I mean, I'm proud that I was able to kind of make something film festival viable. I didn't know that it would be work in that setting at all. So this was all kind of a big experiment for me. I've never done that before. I've only shown in art spaces where I think the rules are kind of different. So this is my first time entering into this world.
And what's the reaction been? How have you felt it being reflected back to you?
It went much better than I thought. I was really surprised it would get taken anywhere. I thought maybe a couple really offbeat festivals would be interested, but it's been really great. I premiered at Doc Leipzig, which is a really beautiful festival. And yeah, it definitely exceeded my expectations. And I'm thrilled to continue to do it. I love movies, I love film, and I'm so honored to be among all of you right now in this context. So yeah, it's been great. I love it. I wish I could go to some, but I probably wouldn't have been able to go anyway. So it's been kind of nice to be able to participate online.
So, thank you. And next up, and I'm going in the order of the program. So the flapper is next. Seattle audiences will recognize Celeste Hughes. Hi, Celeste. Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you. Nice to be here virtually.
Yes. I'm going to start with one of the same questions. Where did this film, how would you describe this film?
Well, I work in archives, I guess, and lately that's been the internet, YouTube clips, and then I erase and manipulate through Photoshop and editing software. So, but for this project, I wanted to work with Vinemar films, in particular Metropolis and Sunrise, because they had that really stark black-white dichotomy, you know, virgin horror. And then Night of the Hunter, of course, has that same dichotomy in it, but it's reflects only one person's viewpoint in that film. It's not the whole overarching sensibility of it as the German films are. And I'm really interested in flappers. It's the second film I've used flappers in, and I feel that they've had a bad rap in history. They were the first modern women of the 20th century. They came about at the same time as cinema was becoming a legit art form. And that kind of collision, a lot of the tropes that had been made of women came about at that time, the vamp, the fallen woman. So there was a lot of fear of modern women within, especially the Germans. It seemed like their biggest fear was women and technology. And they combined them in Metropolis as a female robot who tries to destroy the whole planet. So anyway, I wanted to take that and like tear it apart and restructure it into a more accurate depiction of what was going on.
And then how do you think it, how do you like how it turned out? Or, you know, it's like once it was finished, how do you see it now?
I like it. I wasn't sure, because like it was really tightly structured around the content of those films. So not everyone has an encyclopedic memory of silent films. So I wasn't sure if people would get the film. And there are some people that I talked to who saw it who had no idea of who even Lillian Gish was, but they got the film. So that was good.
So yeah, and I guess that's my, oh, have you been able to bring it to other festivals?
It was just in Portland last month. And I just started.
And what kind of reaction are you feeling from it, from showing it to friends, showing it to audiences?
Yeah, I actually posted a still of it on Facebook when I first finished it. And then Ben Pop from the Portland Festival asked me like immediately to submit it just for the still. So, but I think he liked the film too. But so yeah, I've had good reaction to it.
Okay. Let's see. So next is Alex Anna with Scars. So, hi, welcome.
Thank you.
So, question to you, same question as everybody. How did this film come about for you?
I was looking for an idea to make a film, and I was thinking of what do I want to talk about and what do I want to give a voice to. And I thought self-harming is a big part of me, and you know, I know this topic. I have my own experience of it, and you know, I should make a film about it, and that's how I decided to do it.
It feels very personal. Was it easier working alone on it and then versus showing it to other people? Or I'm curious about the production of the film.
Well, it is indeed very, very personal. And at the beginning, the first thing I've done was recording the testimony, like my own testimony. And for months and months, I thought I would edit it myself. So, you know, I allowed myself to be very honest and vulnerable in those recordings because I thought it's fine. I will be the only one ever listening to this. But then when I decided to talk about it with an editor, she told me, actually, I need to hear everything. You know, I think it's going to be the best and for the film. And I agreed on that, but it was a big step for me to give her absolutely everything. And I think it was really, really for the best for the film, and it gave it the vulnerability and sincerity that it has now. So yeah, it was very personal, and I thought it would be something that I would make on my own, and then it became sort of bigger. But I mean, the team is only 10-15 person, and we kept it a secret for the whole production until we premiered in August, September. And all this time we kept it a secret because it's so personal that I didn't want to have anyone, you know, interrupting me or just sort of giving me unwanted comments on that. So I needed to protect myself and protect the film until it was out to the public.
Talk a little bit about the animation is kind of beautiful. The black that highlights the white of the scars. Talk about the discovering that and choosing to use that.
Well, it's an idea that I've had in my mind for the longest time. I mean, I can't even sort of say when it came in my mind. I feel like I've had this idea ever since I've seen my scars. Like, you know, when I was in high school, I could see my scars just during school, and I was sort of imagining those lines going through my skin. And I don't myself do animation. I am very I have very great admiration for all of you who do that. I cannot do it myself. I hope one day I will learn to do it. So I decided to work with an animator, and he did such a wonderful job. What I did is I did some sketches and used some very basic animation apps or softwares to make very basic sort of animatics, and then gave it to him, and we worked together also with editing and music, so we could find this symbiosis between all these elements of the film.
And then what's the reaction been? Oh, wait, before I get to that, what was your reaction once it was done, once you were done creating and it became its own object? How do you react to it now?
Well, while we were making it, I think I sort of distanced myself from it. I was really seeing it as a film and not as my personal story, or, you know, it wasn't about me anymore somehow. So it took me a very long time without watching it to sort of really see it for what it is. So I haven't watched it for months, and then just before it premiered, I decided to watch it again and sort of actually watch it, and it was sort of a shock. I was like, oh, I did that. Okay. Okay, that's a lot, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I'm proud that I went through it and that it is done, and I'm proud, and I think the whole team is also very proud. So it's a good feeling.
And what's the reaction been from people who've watched it?
It's been great. It's been what I've honestly really hoped it would be, is that I've been able to talk about mental health and self-harming with people that I've watched it with, or, you know, through comments or private messages or whatever on social medias. You know, people have reached out to me to tell me about their experiences or the experiences of their loved ones. And it's been really good and, I guess, empowering or liberating for people and for me as well. So I hope it continues to open discussions around mental health like it has done.
It turned out great. It's very personal, feels very honest, and I think that's why it works so well.
Thanks.
So now, Ursula, you did Solo.
Yes.
Describe this film. I challenge you.
Oh, you do? Well, I read the description that's online and I was like, oh, that's what it's about. But no, I initially had in mind something that would maybe loosely follow the idea of a fairy tale, and having to do with the ideas of transformation and maybe a certain amount of magic, I'm not sure. And exploring aging.
So you use a lot of different effects. There's clay dolls, there's paper dolls, shots of the woods. What was your production like in collecting this before editing? Did you collect all your footage before you edited, or did you do both?
That's actually a great question. Because it is a lot of collecting. I start with the loose ideas that I had mentioned earlier, and I had been making these clay figures, and I felt like, well, I wanted to do something with them, and I kept building on a sort of a library of imagery and ideas. And I would begin the editing process, and then it becomes almost a dialogue where the piece will ask for something else or tell me that something doesn't work, and I have to go shoot some more. So it's a bit of almost a collage process of adding and subtracting and finding more imagery that speaks to the piece or the piece is asking for. And then once the dialogue is over, I guess the piece is done.
Talk about the choice to use that humming. What is the soundtrack?
It's a vibratory tone that to me just was sort of like a baseline tone, that where the vibration of that sort of energetic tone would sort of connect through all of these different varying states of being.
Yeah, I found it interesting because it wasn't aggressive like it could have been. It just kind of stayed with it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you finish the film, now how do you see it? Is it different for you now?
It's interesting. Once something's done and it goes out into the world, it's almost like it's like I did that. It's like the connection to it when you're working on it is very different to when you let it go. And now it sort of has a life of its own, and I can say I feel pretty good about it.
And what has the reaction been from other people who've seen it, or festival audiences or friends or whatever?
It's been a small audience to this point in time. And the reaction has been really good. Been interesting comments, people picking up on certain moments that they really responded to. Some people respond to the tactility of the piece, because there's a lot of texture, which is something that is sort of a primary interest of mine, of texture and tactility, and actually even including the gestures of touching or my hand work. So it's not, I'm not trying to hide it. And one person described it as witchy. So it's got a varying appeal, I would say.
Excellent.
One quick comment though, before I close. I just want to again thank everyone for including me, and being a part of this has been a great honor. So thank you.
And then the final film in the program, Karen Klein's Film Tattoo. Hi, Karen. Welcome back. SIFF audiences will recognize her also.
Thank you. Thanks, Andy.
So talk about the idea, the spark that led you to make this. Oh, and describe, actually first, go ahead and try and describe this.
Describe it. So film tattoo is what a word that I coined is botanicallage. It uses botanicals in collage on film, on 16mm film. And I've made a number of films in this way over the years. I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 or something. And it's a technique that I keep thinking I'm finished with, and then I return to it for one reason or another. And when COVID hit, I was working on other projects. I've been doing a lot of collaborating during the Trump administration, especially. And I couldn't do those things. I had to put those films on the shelf for one reason or another. And I was confined to my house and my yard, and it was spring. So there was this real irony of having this like incredible blooms in my yard and feeling confined there. And I decided to make the film as a way of sort of playing with those two different elements, both the beauty of the time and then the you know, the horrors that we were all dealing with at the same time. And I wanted to see if I could shift the mood in such a way that both of those elements could be present. So
The music works really nicely with it, or it even kind of informs how you watch it. It's kind of for me like a tentative kind of thing. Talk about choosing the music.
that was an element that really shifted the piece in an interesting way. Again, just trying to think about how I could pursue a collaboration while not really being able to hang out with anybody. My friend Alexis Cuadrado, who is a New York, he's actually originally from Barcelona, but he's a New York-based composer and bass player. And he just emailed me out of the blue, me and my partner, to see how we were doing. And he said, hey, if you've got any projects, I'd love to, you know, help with them in some way. And I had used a soundtrack of his on a film that I made a number of years ago called Equinox. He gave me permission to use something that had already been created, and I just was able to find a slice of a larger piece that worked for my project. So I was interested in collaborating with him, and I gave him a fine cut of the film, and he kind of went nuts with it. And decided to make this structuralist thing. He taught himself a new software. He worked with the names of the plants and the colors that were on the screen and created a kind of structuralist soundtrack that responds to those elements in his software. I hope I'm describing it right, and I think I am. But one of the things that it asked of me, or that it demanded of me, was that I be much more intentional about how I made the film so that I could share it with him, not just the film itself, but like my notes. And the other element here, just to explain to everybody, is that I made about 16 feet of film that I stretched out in my garden. I black 16 millimeter emulsion leader that I rubbed with a garden stone so it's scratched. I filled it with plants from my yard, and then I have an optical printer, so I animated it, reshooting it each frame 3 times so that it expands the piece. So I ended up with about a camera roll, basically 3 minutes of film. Much of it double exposed, which is also a really important element for me too.
And once you finished it, now that you can't tinker with it anymore, how do you react to it?
I like it a lot. I think I like it more because of what Alexis did with it. Yeah, I enjoy looking at it. I'm pleased with like I said, I'm pleased with the tone of it. It's not just, there's a lot of beauty in it, but it's not just beautiful. And that was important to me to get that across. And I think I achieved that, and with Alexis's help.
And what kind of reactions have you gotten from people, audiences?
I haven't shown it very much. This is actually the first festival that accepted the film. It also was accepted at Experiments in Cinema in Albuquerque, which is another great festival. If you all haven't checked it out, you should. And it's going to screen there in a couple of weeks. But in both these festivals, I've been really pleased with the with the program that it found itself in. Like, this is a really strong program, and the program that it's appearing in and Experiments in Cinema is also a really strong program. And that's really rewarding, I think, for a filmmaker to see that, you know, the programmers get it, and then the work around it is also really strong and interesting. That means a lot to me. So.
Okay, I'm going to experiment with opening up questions to everybody. I don't know how these Zoom things work, but you can either raise your hand or just jump in. So this program, almost by accident, is entirely female filmmakers. It just, for me, happened to be the strongest. So I'm wondering, who are some of your favorite female filmmakers? Wondering, are they inspiration, or is it just general? Do you find inspiration just in the world? Karen.
I'll answer that. I saw that you were going to ask it, so I thought it through. I mentioned 5. Marie Menken is a big influence on my work. She's long gone, but you can find her work online. Chick Strand is another woman who works a lot with found footage. She's somebody that I really like a lot. Rose Lauder, who does a lot of work, single framing on film, mostly works a lot with plants. I would love to be able to make a film as accomplished as Rose Lauder's films. A woman named Vicky Smith, who's British, and Colleen Smith, no relation, who's a US-based filmmaker. They're all really inspiring for me, one way or another.
Who else?
I have 2 that I had the idea of last night when I was reading through the questions. One is a woman who's actually, I wouldn't necessarily say filmmaker only, but Joan Jonas, for her performative work, which is cross media and including, you know, film, drawing, video, performance, very experiential. And also another person who happens to be a friend of mine, Janie Geyser, who works a lot with puppetry and very hands-on and wonderful stories. Those 2 are, and then I love anything that's surrealist, and the Dada world is always wonderful to dive into.
So anybody else want to jump in, or I can move to another question?
Like Natalie Jerberg, she's a Swedish claymation mostly. And I'll throw out also Jen Livonian, who I know personally is a wonderful, she works with watercolor and animation. But there are so many, but yeah.
So Marie-Hélène? Oh, still muted. Oh, there we go.
I want to mention the cinematography of Myriam Charles. She makes the voice of Blanche in my film, and she's a very good maker using pellicula 16 mm. And I appreciate the sensibility of work and what emerged in this film. So you can discover her.
Yeah, Miriam Charles. Okay. Somebody else? Celise.
I was just going to say that there's a lot of women filmmakers at this very moment, more than, you know, the canon of experimental films, and which is in itself inspirational. And within experimental animation, I think Martha Coburn really pops out. Yeah, I mean, there's.
I brought her to my school. I'm a professor. I brought Martha Colburn to speak to my students. It was really great.
Yeah, she's great.
And then I should probably start wrapping this up. This has been great, but so is there, let's see. you have any final thoughts either on being a female filmmaker? No, that doesn't sound right. Just being a filmmaker today. What's it been like? Where are you going? What's happening? That's not a great question, but maybe you can make something of it. What are you working on? Alexander.
I'll just go and comment on the fact that most festivals are, of course, happening online. And I think it's, you know, it's quite amazing that we get to sort of participate every time through Zoom meetings like this one, or you know, it's really good that it doesn't matter where we are in the world, we can still participate and meet other filmmakers. But at the same time, it is so frustrating that we cannot meet the public. But also the public can be like a broader audience, because anybody home at their home can just watch films, but we don't know what they think. We don't know if they like it or not. You know, it's hard to make a connection with the public. So it's a whole adventure. And I just want to say that I am sort of looking forward to go back to theaters, but I hope also in some kind of way, festivals will keep these possibilities for filmmakers who cannot travel, who cannot make it to the festivals, to sort of still be there and virtually meet other filmmakers, and, you know, sort of an in-between virtual and in real life festival experience. I think there's a lot that we will learn from the whole pandemic situation.
That seems like a great place to end it. Does anybody else have a final thought that can top that? Thank you so much, everybody. Your films are great. So proud of this program. Thank you for coming to SIFF.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Andy. Nice to see everybody.
yes, nice
Nice
to
to
see
meet you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Take
Yeah.
care.